welcome to Good Game Spawn Point. I'm Rad. Coming up on the show, we go island hopping in the beautiful survival adventure of Windbound. Plus, we leap through the soulfully hand-drawn puzzle platforming of Evergate. But let's get some wind in these sails and start the show. Ahoy!
A few weeks ago, I checked out a sneak peek of the Aussie-developed Windbound, where a shipwrecked warrior named Kara must survive the perils of the Forbidden Islands. And what did we learn? Well, for starters, that I wouldn't last a day in her shoes. But now I have a second chance to prove myself because the full release is finally out. Armed with only a small dagger, her wits, and the ability to turn a handful of grass and rocks into a fully functioning boat, Kara's goal is to reunite with her tribe by uncovering the history of the Forbidden Islands, which she'll do by activating 3 mysterious beacons strewn about each chapter. This isn't really something that's explained to you more than you just sort of figure it out. Video game logic being that the big shiny ball of light in the distance is usually a good place to start. You can play Windbound in one of 2 modes, either survivalist or storyteller. The core difference between the two is the level of difficulty. In survivalist, enemies are stronger, Kara loses most of her items when she dies, and you are booted right back to the beginning of the game. Now, suffering at the hands of a system as punishing as that may be your thing, but it's not really mine. So I chose the storyteller mode, which lets you keep most items and only forces you back to the beginning of the chapter you're on if you die. And as I played more and more, I realised just how fortunate I was that I chose the easier of the two. Throughout your adventures, the looming threat of starvation will always be on your tail, forcing you to stop off and grab a bite to eat. Now, that bite could be of the local flora, letting you maintain a pacifist vegetarian diet if that's how you want to play. Or if you're like me and still hold a grudge against the local wildlife after... you can go after the wild beasties that roam this world. There's a pretty decent variety in the enemy types. From aerial menaces, to quick and agile land dwellers, to what is that? Oh no! Ew, why the tongue? Oh, get off me! No, no way. Oh, it can teleport too? What is this? Anyway, in terms of combat, one-on-one fights are fine, if a bit clunky at times. Things do start to get quite frustrating when dealing with more than one enemy, as you try and wrangle the tracking camera onto the creature you want to target. I did quite quickly learn to avoid these kinds of fights and stuck mostly to shooting arrows from a distance. But for those who like to get more up close and personal, it's not the most enjoyable combat system. Each creature you do successfully take down, though, drops resources that you can use to complete an ever-growing list of recipes for items that'll make your life slightly easier, such as upgrades to your boat to increase durability, improved weapons to help aid you in fights against teleporty McGee over there, as well as clothing that is both stylish and practical. Although there were times when my greatest enemy was the limited inventory space, which pretty much forces you to juggle your items between 2 or 3 locations. Now, in my early look preview, I mentioned that I was not, let's say, a world-class sailor, and that's still true, but I'm less inclined now to believe it's entirely my fault. While the sailing itself isn't too difficult to work out, it does take quite a while to get the finer points down, like when to loosen or tighten your sails and how to maneuver with the winds. Especially if you're like me and know nothing about sailing. So I would have appreciated a tutorial to help get me started. Even then though, there were times I didn't feel like I was even in control of my boat. Throughout the day, the winds will change direction and you'll run into more and more obstacles like rocks and reefs. Those I could handle, but I spent a good deal of time kind of just stuck in the water, not moving because I guess the wind wasn't going the right way. This may be just a subtle nudge to try and get you to explore more of the area, letting the wind be your guide, but it kind of did the opposite for me. I got so frustrated trying to angle my sail, struggling trying to get some kind of momentum, that I just ended up booking it to the next available beacon to escape the tedium. This does somewhat shoot Windbound in the foot a bit, as it is so heavily dependent on that natural exploration. I finished the game, and I'm pretty sure there are creatures and recipes I still haven't discovered. I didn't even know sharks were a thing until maybe 10 hours in, simply because I wasn't super jazzed about going that far into the ocean in case I got stuck again. It's by no means unplayable, and I definitely had some lovely moments out there, but because you simply spend so much of your time on the water, these issues stood out more. I did also encounter a few bugs here and there.
Yeah.
But I'm just choosing to believe Kara is actually strong enough to yeet fully grown creatures into the stratosphere. Jokes aside though, I'm not sure where I stand on Windbound. Visually, it's gorgeous, with a great variation in environments and landscapes to explore. I had some really intense encounters, and there's an enjoyable enough gameplay loop that kept me on the move looking for the next big score. But at the same time, I can see the cracks that may cause a rift too big for other players to get invested, especially because so much of Windbound's content relies on you being stubborn enough to push through to see it. Did I have a good time? Yes. But would I play it again in my own free time? I don't think so. So with that being said, I'm giving Windbound 3 out of 5 rubber chickens.
Hello and welcome to another superlative edition of The Scoop. Let's get stuck into another fragrant bouquet of gaming news. First up, we now have some comprehensive next-gen console details on the table from both Microsoft and Sony. The PlayStation 5 console, both disc and digital-only versions, will come out on November the 12th. PlayStation Plus subscribers will get access to a collection of over 15 classic PS4 games to download and play on the new console for free in what's called the PlayStation Plus Collection. Perhaps this is a bit of an attempt to contend with Xbox's Game Pass. This follows earlier confirmation from Xbox that the Xbox Series X and the smaller, less powerful disc-free Series S console will be launching on the 10th of November. Both the Series X and the main PS5 will be around the same price too, so that's a lot to ponder on as we inch ever closer to the dawn of the next generation of gaming. Moving along now to our next piece of gaming news. And Nintendo offered up another mini helping of news about third-party games for the Switch. There was a gameplay glimpse and release date for colourful 3D platform adventure Balan Wonderworld, which is set to launch in March next year. We'll see a new rhythm fitness title, Fitness Boxing 2 Rhythm and Exercise, and one of the year's most heartfelt platformers, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, is now available on the Switch. Now for another slice of gaming news pie. Yum yum. Indie RPG Undertale recently celebrated its 5th anniversary of release. In celebration, the Undertale channel hosted a special online concert broadcast featuring the music of the game from a 2019 Tokyo performance. Developer Toby Fox also offered an update on the progress of his next project, Deltarune. He says the second chapter is on its way to completion, with plans for more chapters to come following this. Let's hope Fox is filled with determination to finish those in the not-too-distant future. Finally, for this week, Rocket League is now free to play. While the game makes the move to the Epic Games Store on PC, players on other platforms can also enjoy the soccer antics for free too. Soccer. And those playing on PlayStation or Switch won't require the online subscription to play in online matches either. Other updates to coincide with this move include a streamlining of the game's competitive events, new ranks, and a new tutorial system. Now, onto this week's Extra Scoop! And some Microsoft Flight Simulator flights have been successfully piloted by a live-stream chat. Indie game developer Rami Ismail was able to set up a command bot so chat members in his stream could change the speed, heading, and target altitude of the plane. They've even managed barrel rolls and safe landings. Perhaps many pilots make for flight work. And that's it for another fine scooping expedition. Until next week, bye for now.
Big budget games can waggle their bombastic graphics and gameplay and we'll gawk in awe, but the humble indie needs to work for our attention. So how does Evergate reel us in? Well, it does one thing very well. The story of Evergate is by no stretch unique. It honestly feels like Ori and Yanni sat down one day and decided to make a game. You play as a lost soul named Key, who, after waking in the afterlife, seeks to journey back to Earth. But when the mysterious Evergate blocks her path, Key is forced to relive the memories of a spirit long forgotten. To do this, she takes up the ancient power of the afterlife, the Soul Flame. Considering Key is a soul, if I use the Soul Flame, would that make it a human flame? Probably not. But outside of the cliched story, Evergate offers a fresh take on the puzzle platformer genre, because here, more often than not, you will be making the platforms. Using the power of the Soul Flame, Key can slow down time and aim her beam of energy at the white goop known only as the Source. Firing through a crystal or certain block will allow Key to boost across the screen or plonk a platform below her. Each level is basically a puzzle, deciphering which target to fire and bounce off first, and how to chain your light attacks to get you home. The first few levels of this, I was satisfied. It's a cool little mechanic that makes for a fun platformer, but there is so much more to this. The Evergate gradually reveals memories known as books. Each of these books drop you in a unique time and place throughout the lost spirit's life, each adding a themed target to fire at. There's hourglasses that zip you to their location, flame flowers that burn away the source, and arrowheads that blast a missile. Just when you think you've got the game down pat, a new element is dropped into the mix. Thankfully, due to the slowly unlocking nature of the Evergate, it never feels overwhelming. You're eased into each ability, allowing you time to learn all of their uses before having to chain them together. But that's not to say this is a walk in the afterlife. Does that work as a metaphor? Once you've burnt through the first few easy books, you'll start to spend more time stationary than moving. When you've first loaded into a level, you'll scan all the potential chaos of powers and jumps, then once you've got a plan, you'll go to town. It's so satisfying, a true testament to how successful a game can be when it focuses down on one idea. Mario has Cappy, Sonic runs fast, and Key has the power of the afterlife. But if that's not enough, you can power yourself up even more, and you might need to. Outside of the hazard of your own failed jumps, levels also pose dastardly environmental hazards in falling ice and blizzards, spikes, and general fire. To combat that, you can either be good at the game or unlock those power-ups. Each level has a set of 3 challenges to complete. Blast all the things, collect all the things, and beat the timer. Tick enough of these off and you'll unlock abilities known as artifacts. From Crow's Feather, which will stop fragile terrain from falling beneath you, to the Ice Shield, which, you know. There's also artifacts to boost things like your jump power, and whilst you can only use one at a time, you can switch it on the fly mid-level. But if you're not able to complete enough achievements to unlock those powers, you can complete the game without them. But good luck. You'll often have the perfect plan, bouncing around the level and nailing every jump, but ever so slightly miss a shot and you've completely ruined your chance of success. And hey, risk and reward, right? But when your plan has about 18 steps and you fail at number 17, that ain't fun. Sometimes the game locks you onto the wrong target, other times it's your own silly fault. A simple time reverse ability would have fixed a whole lot of pain here. At least give me the option to go back a step rather than restart the level from scratch. I have not come so close to raging in such a long time, but that sense of promise in nailing a level never ceased to keep me going. Through focusing down on one soul mechanic and squeezing it for every last bit of potential, Evergate makes for a brilliant, challenging experience that I'm keen to get back to. I have got so many levels to 100%, and I know I'm just a hop, skip, and a soul flame away from the end. But until then, I'm giving Evergate 4 out of 5 rubber chickens.
Okay, it's AskSP time, and if inboxes had brims, ours would be full to that brim with your gaming queries. So let's kick things off with this video from Harrison. Because brimmers are winners, you better bring your swimmers.
What is the ice giant in Totally Accurate Battle Simulator?
Thanks, Harrison. Well, I would assume the ice giant is some kind of icy giant, but maybe this is a trick question. I'm gonna ring Darren just to be safe. Get him on the phone.
Hello, Darren speaking.
Hi, Darren. I was just wondering, what is the ice giant in Totally Accurate Battle Simulator?
Well, the Ice Giant is one of the units in the game. It belongs to the Secret faction, so he needs to be unlocked in the Viking 1 campaign map. He's a powerful, heavy-hitting unit, one of the largest and strongest in the game, in fact.
Ah, I see. Oh, I see. Get it?
Very cool, Rad. Bye-bye.
Bye, Darren. Thank you. I hope that answers your burning question about the ice giant, Harrison. Although the heat of that burning question would surely melt the ice giant, right? Anyway, moving on now to this video from Penny and Miles.
We love GGSP. I'm Penny. And I'm Miles. And we have 3 questions for you. 1. How do you defeat the 10 enemies on Mario plus Rabbids? 2. What are some Mario and Sonic games you can get on the Switch? 3. How to get a pet ender dragon on Minecraft? Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Penny and Miles. Now, those are some big questions, so I better get answering. To answer your first question, I'm assuming you're referring to the 10 main boss or mid-boss battles in Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle. But we'd be here for ages, yonks even, if I were to get into the nitty-gritty of each boss battle. And they're all quite different with different specific tips. So instead, how's about I offer up some more general strategy tips for boss battles, and hopefully these will help you out overall. First off, don't forget to make use of the Tacticam, especially at the start of battle or when new enemy types appear. It's good to be able to see where all your enemies are hiding and know more about your foes. Similarly, I like to plot out how each team member will move forward and attack in a turn before committing to it. The back button is your friend. Just don't accidentally confirm the move too soon. Sometimes it makes sense to focus on eliminating the smaller enemies first, one at a time. It's good to get them out of the mix early on before concentrating on the bigger targets, especially if they're those pesky supporter units that top up the enemy side's health. And think carefully, not only about your team choice for each battle, but also about each team member's abilities and their cooldown. Just because an ability is available doesn't mean you have to use it right away. It might be better to wait until it will really help you out. As for Mario and Sonic games for Switch, well, the two actually feature together in Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. And they're both playable fighters in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Aside from that, they both appear separately in a whole bunch of games. Mario is in heaps, including Super Mario Odyssey, Super Mario Maker 2, Paper Mario the Origami King, and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, just to name a few. And the Super Mario 3D All-Stars collection if you fancy some new old Mario games. You'll find the iconic blue blur Sonic in games like Team Sonic Racing, Sonic Mania, and Sonic Forces on the Switch. As for how to get a pet Ender Dragon in Minecraft, well, there are some mods out there for the Java edition that allow you to tame an Ender Dragon, or rather hatch an Ender Dragon egg and then tame it. Aww. But as far as I know, there's no official way to tame one in vanilla Minecraft and keep it around as a pet like you can with some of the other animals. Although, if you're playing in creative or have cheats enabled in survival, you can summon an Ender Dragon. It sort of just flies around and destroys things. So I guess you can imagine that it's your pet, your very destructive pet, Just don't summon it near anything you aren't happy to rebuild. Right, now we might have time for one more cheeky and or cheesy question, and this one comes from Elliot.
Hello, and today I have one question. One, why haven't you reviewed Hello Neighbour 2? Because you reviewed the other Hello Neighbour games, why haven't you reviewed Hello Neighbour 2? Now, excuse me, while I have my cheese toasty. Mine, not yours.
Thanks, Elliot, and thanks for making me wish I had a cheese toasty too. If you're wondering why we haven't reviewed Hello Neighbour 2, well, the main reason would be that it hasn't quite been released yet. It's still in what's known as an alpha phase, which is an early testing phase. So it wouldn't really be fair to give it a full review until the developers say it's fully finished. That's not to say we won't take a look at the alpha in some way during the lead up. I mean, it is a spooky game of sorts, and there is a particularly spooky day coming up at the end of October. Something for us to consider for sure. Alright, it looks like that's all the time we have for AskSP this week. If you've got a question you'd like to ask us, go here to send it in. And make it a video question, because if it ends up on the show, we'll send you some cool GGSP loot. Alright, now I think it's time for me to go and make my own cheese toasty, with some special rattly spice on it, so that it can be the cheese toasty with the mosty, the toastest with the mostest.
Well, it looks like we've reached the end of another episode. But don't worry, we've been digging and we found some real treasure for next week's episode. We build and defend villages from feral beasts in Drake Hollow. And Rad talks to the animals in a special exploration of how games can bring us closer to our animal friends. In the meantime, make sure you check out the ABC Me app for an extra snack-sized serve of GGSP. This week, Rad goes on a puzzling journey in a review of a Monsters Expedition. But until next time, may all your games be good ones. Will out.
Gem out.
Rat out!